Good afternoon to you, our dear esteemed viewers. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Youth Roundtable. My name is Douglas Trekonen, and this is Civic Space TV. This week, we are discussing quite an interesting but very and a profound topic that has been making rounds on various platforms of the young people who are interested but also are vying for political positions in the National Youth Council. But also we shall look at the postponement of the NRM primaries for the special interest groups such as the youth. But of course, today's discussion in a nutshell focuses on one, the impact of the postponement of the special interest groups, particularly the NYC to 1st to 3rd October of the year 2025, but also the postponement of the NRM primaries. And joining me to discuss this very robust and interesting topic is a panel of distinguished ladies and gentlemen who will help us put perspective to the conversation. In no particular order, allow me to go ahead and introduce my guests and also give them the chance to say hello to our dear viewers, and then we get into the conversation. I'll begin from my immediate left here. I'm joined by an aspirant of the position of National Female Youth Member of Parliament, Katusime Susan. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing. A good afternoon to everyone out there watching us. My name is Katsime Pretty Susan.
Yeah.
Well known as Katsime Susan Barumo, aspiring for National Female Youth Member of Parliament. Let's wait to see how it goes down.
Thank you. Very happy to have you here, Susan. Right next to Susan, we are joined by a law student from KIU by the names of Lupago Ashraf. You're most welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Drake. To our live viewers, I'm so happy to be here, and as I've earlier on been introduced, I'm Kwago Ashraf, a student of law at Kampala International University, as well as the Secretary Electoral Commission of the Kampala International University Law Society. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm very happy that we are going to, with my fellow panelists, we are going to delve into the issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last but not least, a very familiar face on the show, Miss Melody Nakalanzi. She's the project coordinator at Teachers Debaters Network. You're most welcome. I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Drake. It's always a pleasure being here. My name once again is Melody Nakalanzi. I am happy to be here again, and other things Drake talked about.
Thank you. Let me start with you, Susan. Before we get into the postponement of the special interest groups elections that is under the NYC, let's start with the primaries. Considering that you are an aspirant and a candidate in the race, of course, the postponement of the NRM primaries for the youth structures has a huge impact on you as a candidate, but also it has a huge impact on the delegates who are supposed to elect you in that, who are supposed to give you the flag for that particular position. Before we go into understanding the effect this has on you as an individual, but also on your on your constituents are supposed to give you the mandate. Let's understand why is first of all the exercise of these particular elections of the flag bearer very critical and very important in regards to democracy.
Well, Drake, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you prepare well knowing I'm having made 3 months for the campaign.
Yeah.
And by this date, for example, it was supposed to be 25th August, I'll be done. Today is the 2nd of September. There is nothing like a light concerning the primaries for the youth. Neither the Youth League nor the Youth MPs.
Yeah.
We had our delegates travel to Kololo for 4 days. They had to travel back to their homes. Far end, near ends, anything. They had to go back, having no work done. Well, there were a number of causes that led to this. Where we had a lot of irregularities involved. Things were not moving on right. As if things were being cooked, if I'm to use that word, you'd clearly understand the slang. As if things were being cooked in favor of some people. Yet we well know one of the 4 core principles of NRM is democracy, where a leader should be a leader by the people. So if the people are here to get a leader, and then the factors are not favoring the process, then it had to be postponed. Though in the postponement, there was no consultation by the delegates, by the candidates. No, it was a sole decision by the party chairman, according to what he was seeing on ground. said, no, we cannot proceed with this. Let us give it more time for the youth themselves to get ready and get prepared for this. So it had to be postponed. But what happens if you really postpone it without looking at the directly affected persons, both the delegates and the candidate? You're only postponing it on the side of the party. How about the delegates? How about the candidates? Is it all about facilitation being available? How about the businesses they've left home? On return, the buses to West Nile, 2 of them got accidents. These buses had 80% of their clients were delegates. But we thank God that no one got a serious injury. They were all safe and sound. But what happens? People are traveling all these kilometers to come to Kampala and vote, and it's not possible. Yes, they are facilitated to go back. But what happens when you call them to come back? Would they still have the same energy they had before? Would they still be enthusiastic as they were before? Or they've lost the morale? These are things we have to look into. In the struggle for democracy, in the struggle to show people that it is your responsibility to choose a leader, what kind of implication are we having on their lives directly? On their mental health? Someone coming to Kampala, they are carrying their bags every morning, signing out of the hotel, in their minds thinking they would vote and be able to finish early enough to return to their homes. Before they notice, they're in Kololo at 1 a.m. with their bags on their backs. You get? Someone has already signed out. You're telling someone of Zombo to find for themselves a hotel in Kampala at 2 a.m. So we didn't look into all these considerations before we say, let this happen. And then again, why?
Just before we go into that, does this mean that the NRM wasn't ready to hold the party primaries?
The NRM was ready, you get?
Yeah.
But what happened within there is what caused for the push of the deaths.
All right, let me just hold you there and bring in Melody, then I come to you, Ashraf. Susan gives us a picture of what exactly happened in Kololo for the week or in August, the last week of August. And what we saw in her statements that led to the postponement of the youth MP primary elections, but also for the other positions, particularly for the young people, was on one ground. One, that the process was marred with irregularities. In understanding the principles of democracy, as she rightly put it, that the National Resistance Movement is a party that runs on the fundamental pillar of democracy, and yet the process itself was marred with irregularities. The question that I asked her, was the National Resistance Movement ready for this race? And something that I want to pose to you, that when we're looking at various political parties that are in existence in this country today, we have seen oftentimes in these primaries, it's a do or die. Coming 2026, are we ready as a country? Are political parties ready to front the right candidates? But in a nutshell, what impact does this have on the young people who are under the National Resistance Movement that are participating in this process?
All right. Okay. So these are very interesting questions that you asked me, Drake. But I'll basically start on the readiness of the country to go for an election. For starters, even when people want to distance themselves from the question of finance and things like that, I think it is important that we keep discussing about this. We have a number of political parties that have come up in this country. Almost everyone, even you, Drake, you would wake up and say, I want to make a political party, and the next thing we see, you are a president of a political party, and you most likely want to run for president of the country. Notice that this is taxpayers' money that is most likely going to fund these particular political parties. Even when they say we are going to go to the public and collect money and things like that, notice that that is not enough, because still as state, they have an obligation to fund these political parties. That is one. What then that means is that government then has to make sure that all these political parties then have like an environment that is financially good for all of them to like go on and hold on to hold their elections. But also, it means that security for almost all these political parties is supposed to be guaranteed, because now we have a political party here, we have a political party in another district, things like that. It means that finances is one thing. Remember, as a country, we are struggling with issues of finance. Business people are striking every day, things like that. It means that on the financial part, as a country, we are not ready. But also, like, to the general public, are people ready to have these elections? I think that is even more important than the finance. Maybe Uganda, as already does, can go and get a loan or something. But on the people's, like, what people then think about these particular elections is what is important. Are people ready to vote? Notice, irregularities happened in 2021. People were not happy with what happened, starting from as low as maybe district leaders, goes to MPs, goes to president. People were not happy with anything that happened. So it means that even when you still call up these people or call them out to come and do the voting, they will most likely not come out to do the voting that you want them. It means that as a country, financially, but also emotionally, and what it takes for an election to do with mass participation is most likely not going to happen. Zeroing it down maybe to the special interest groups. Notice, one, we had Entrepreneurs League and the Diaspora League. Those elections are not most likely going to happen. They were actually not even postponed. They were suspended. That election is not going to happen. Two, we have a youth election now getting suspended. One, these are young people that are struggling financially to make sure that they have these elections happen. And now they have been like preparing for over a year to have this election, maybe today or tomorrow or the next day. And you're telling them that it has been suspended and it is given at least 4 more weeks to happen. It means financially you're putting them at a hold. They're most likely not going to effectively have these elections happen. But two, the people that vote for them do not stay here or stay at the grounds where you have these elections. That is still on the financial bit. But also, emotionally, and also these people that you're calling to come and do this election will most likely not still vote Susan when she calls them, because maybe they think Susan, because she is aspiring, maybe she has a say in what NRM or what those people at the top would say. It means that these individuals, even when you call them back to come and vote, they will most likely not show up because they are already tired and frustrated of how the system is. But I do not want to entirely blame this on government or maybe the state and things like that. I think young people also have a role that they play in these elections. Most of the irregularities and the manipulations that the president is talking about are caused by them, are caused by the people that are aspiring. It means that...
How? Because when you talk about that these challenges are caused by the people who are aspiring, among the irregularities that most of us saw, and among the reasons as to why we saw the postponement of this process, was on grounds of counting of the elections. Mm-hmm. The EC of the National Resistance Movement, Dr. Tango Doi, on counting those votes, we saw videos circulating, and it wasn't tallying. So on those grounds, and from various reasons that young people were bringing up, led to the suspension and postponement of the
that is why my response is to different extents. The government is on one hand to blame, and the young people are also on the other hand to blame. On the part of government, when you talk about the counting of EC and how Tango Doi was counting from 1 to 10 to 180 and something like that. Well, the man comes out and defends himself and says it's AI, but we all know the truth. It is not AI.
Can I come in and tell you something brief still on that? I want to take you back and tell you that the irregularities were not limited to the counting. It started from the verification process. My total number of voters was supposed to be 3,619. Within the ring-fenced area, I could see about 6,000 people. And they're like, can everyone be out? We have actual verification of the actual delegates inside. That was nullified, said no.
This is why I still say I am not blaming it on one party. Government is on one hand to blame, but also these individuals that are running for these positions are to blame. I haven't given you my reason for why.
But how is government to blame? Because this is an internal process within the National Resistance Movement. So how is it government's fault?
Well, government is NRM Drake. So if it's EC that is holding an NRM election, right? Sure. Well, if I refer to government, then I'm trying to say NRM.
Yes.
So this is it. When delegates I'm now getting to the issue of these individuals themselves being to blame for these particular irregularities. Notice, we have individuals being taken out of the country, being taken out of Kampala to go and get hidden. 2, we have a Drake who is aspiring for a position, buying over, maybe she says, about 3,000 delegates. Someone is buying 2,000, it means that guarantees them a win. Now, NRM then says that if you have decided to do such things, then we think we cannot have an election that has some kind of irregularities that exist like that. Their core principle as NRM is to say we have democracy, but we have not seen democracy in any kind of election. Recently at Kololo, when they were voting for the NEC members, you saw what was happening. People are fighting. These are people that are old enough to say that we think Drake and maybe Susan should not fight. But these are the people that are having the fights themselves. It means that these individuals themselves are to blame for most of the things that actually happen. Because even at the time when NRM decides to say that we think at the time when there is going to be rigging at the top in the NRM, maybe the structures, it is going to most likely come from one of them that will go and say that I think you should read for me. She will tell you later, I'm sure she will talk about it, that there is a certain individual that government is most likely robbing for. That they want that individual to be the National Youth Female Member of Parliament. And NRM is vying for that particular individual. It means that that particular individual is conniving with NRM to make sure that they are in favor of them. It comes back to them. And that as an individual, maybe you may not talk about it.
It may not be NRM, but it may say one official within NRM. Because if you say the whole of NRM, that may be an innocent top official somewhere who also wants democracy.
Susan, the fact that you subscribe to NRM and you're able to do something in the name of NRM or to do with maybe elections, it means it is NRM that has done it. If you're voted as National Youth Member of Parliament, then you do something, it means that we should blame you for whatever has been done in the name of NRM, because that is the institution that you subscribe to anyways. On the last question, what then, on the general question on how maybe political parties and how the entire country is ready for these elections, the country is not ready. In my wish, I would even wish that we have this election pushed to 2030. Even maybe we have even when maybe we have a president that people do not like. But for the sanity and for the good of everyone, I think in 2026, we are not most likely going to have a nice election.
All right, thank you. Those are your thoughts and opinions. Ashraf, right now, I just want us to now talk about the impact it has on the youth, particularly the youth within the national resistance movement. Melody highlights a couple of impacts it has on the delegates. 1, the financial impact. 2, the emotional toll it has on the individuals. But the NRM primaries is very critical because the young people, such as Susan here, among other aspirants, have been preparing for this race to ensure that they get the flag for months. They started this preparation as early as, I think, last year. And right now, you come to Kololo and your delegates are there, and then it's postponed, suspended, and the communication is not yet certain when exactly you're supposed to have the elections happening. What impact does this have? First of all, on the face value of the party, yeah, but also on the individuals themselves involved in the process.
Thank you so much, Craig. We all know that the election, the national youth elections, before we even go to the national youth election, particularly in the party of the NRM, this is a kind of election which is very different from other types of election. Reason being that this is a kind of election which is more of electoral college, you understand? Whereby, if at all we are going to vote for the candidates we wish or the leaders we wish to have, we do vote for them through what we call a delegates conference. So this kind of elections, on the issue of the financial implication, it is very important. It is very expensive in a way that if at all you're going to get delegates across the whole country, for example, for my sister here, she's contesting for National Female Youth MP, of which this is an election which is the people supposed to vote for her are the delegates of the youth. So if at all you tell me that you're going to, for example, call for an election on the 27th of August, then from nowhere you'll be like you're going to postpone such an election without even giving people prior notice about it. And up to now, we are coming for a full week. None of us knows when that election is going to be conducted.
Yeah.
You understand? Because of in that very week, the chairman of the NRM party postponed 2 particular elections. one for the national for the youth, another for the entrepreneurs lead. And for the entrepreneurs lead, for them they got a solution. We know, was it on Saturday, the party chairman met with the candidate, that was Dr. Hassan Basaja Balava, Dr. Molenga King Caesar, and I think Mr. Sanjay Itana. When he met them,
it was mediated by the deputy speaker.
Actually, mediated by the deputy speaker. They agreed and came up with one particular candidate. So at the end of the day, for them, they have a solution. Reason being, for them, those had tensions whereby one of the candidates was alleged to have taken delegates out to Kenya
on a trip.
And when he was asked, he said they have gone to watch Chan Games. And you know, by the time and one of the qualifications, when the Secretary General together with the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of the NRM, I'm very sure before that delegates conference came in Kololo the previous week, he had called all contestants of the SEC positions to come and tell them about the guidelines they're going to talk about. And one of the candidates, I think, raised that issue, that we are having an issue whereby some of our rivals or our co-contestants, they're having an issue of hiding what we call delegates. And the Secretary General was very strong on that position, saying that in case we get to realize that one of the contestants is hiding delegates, we shall automatically disqualify you. And the person who raised an issue mentioned, because he was asked to mention one of the person is alleging to have hidden the delegates. He mentioned the person in the meeting. And what the chairperson said, when the Secretary General had asked the representatives of the doctor, and people were like, it's true, they're in Kenya, but they've gone for Chan Games.
Yeah, it's not
so
hiding. It's a trip.
It's a trip. They have gone for Chan Games, and there's no you can argue. It's true, Chan was ongoing. But then, if at all there was proof that someone is hiding delegates, and as a party, the position was that if in case we get that we get to realize and with evidence that you are hiding delegates, we shall automatically disqualify you. But what happened? The person who was hiding the delegates is now the candidate in the same position.
The endorsed candidate.
Is the endorsed and is the one going to be part of the same. So on the issue of the youth elections, we all know that this issue of postponing, to a greater extent, it is a disadvantage. It is true it can be an advantage to the people postponing, but the people, the stakeholders, here I mean my sister, the contestant, as well as the delegates, because we all know that Kololo was the center of all the delegates across the whole country. People from Zombo, Koboko, Kisoro, Mbale, Tororo, where they all had convened. And we all know that convening in such a place, it had repercussions of, for example, transport, accommodation. Some people are coming to Kampala, it's very true, but then Kampala is, in terms of expense, you can't compare Kampala to any other part of the country. So such people, if at all they come, settle in one place, and are very ready to vote. I'm very sure on that day the elections were postponed. Many youth were at Kololo up to as late as 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So someone had to come early at Kololo, waiting to vote for their favorite candidate. But then they go on to as far as waiting to that particular time. When time approaches, you go and tell them that, you know what, we are going to postpone these elections. Do you know what? I'm very sure even before you talk about the financial implication, it can cause more of trauma. Because we saw one of the candidates, I've forgotten, I think she was called Kobusinje. Yeah, she came and on that very night, she had the chance to get a microphone, and she was trying to criticize such a decision. Before she even finished talking on a microphone, we saw what all happened. I think one of the security officers came and dragged the microphone away from her. So you can see how that kind of frustration means. Because one of my sister here has talked about having had delegates of around 3,000. Of course, I'm very sure the way she got to get those particular delegates was all about maybe her ideologies. She convinced them. You get? So on that day when the polling day reached, she expected her delegates to come vote for her. But then once she postponed such election, that means that she will have again to go and trace for those very delegates, because those are delegates from across the country. So she will have to go again and try to reach out to them, convince them. Remember, as she's convincing them, other people also having chance in case she moves away. This is an election whereby your opponents will also have the chance of coming to the voters and reach out to them with their kind of ideas and ambitions. So we are in a state of confusion. That's all I can say. And we all know that on the 3rd of October, today is the 2nd, right? On the 3rd of October, that's roughly a month. This is whereby we don't even know when the elections are going to be resuming. And after them resuming, I'm very sure we all know that the president, the party chairman, came up with a tribunal. So in case you agree with the outcomes of the election, in this very month, we have to conduct the election. After election coming out, getting done, people who are complaining will have to complain to the tribunal in this very space of 1 month. And after the 1 month getting done, of course, as for example, you're the
flag bearer.
Flag bearer. You still have to because this is not a general election. It's just an internal process. So once the internal process is done, in the period of 1 month, you're going to first get done with the internal process. When internal process gets done, you go and appeal to the tribunal in case you're aggrieved. In that still very 1 month, you have to go and
For nomination.
All I can say that it's a very, very it's a disadvantage to a greater extent.
Yeah.
And I feel the party should come up with better, because this is an election whereby we had a period of 5 years to prepare for all this. Resources are there. We all know that the NRM is the party in power, whereby through iPod roughly they get 35 billion per year. And in this quarter here now, they are the only people enjoying the money of iPod, since one of the opposition parties didn't subscribe, of which I think this very quarter they gave them 11 billion shillings to utilize, and on the 11 billion shillings, 1 billion was supposed to go to the National Unity Platform. However, we all know that there was an amendment of the Political Parties and Organization Act. It was amended on the day they amended the UPDF bill act, I think, whereby they said that parties that do not subscribe to iPod are not entitled to share the money
share on that money.
Yes, on that money which is given by the Electoral Commission. So an example is the 11 billion shillings was just released this current quarter, and after it's being released, they said that 1 billion was supposed to go to the NUP, but since they did not subscribe, it is going to be shared equally amongst the parties that subscribe. So in all, what I'm trying to bring out is the resources are there. It is just the confusion we are all in. And before I go any further, I want to first finish up with one issue. We all know that on that very position of the National Female Youth MP, we have one of the candidates. I think I can mention the name because it's all about for the general public. It's I think it's Miss Naku Fiona, whereby we all know that the National Youth Council provides that in case you want to contest for youth elections in any whatsoever position, you must range from the age of 18 to 30. So in this case, this particular candidate, I think she was 31, whereby she was actually even nominated. You get? I'm very sure that before you're nominated, your electoral commission has to verify
your document.
So by the time someone was nominated, after them presenting their credentials and all their identification records, that means that at some point there was some bit of unfairness. Why would you have to first wait for the general public to come and petition for you to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's true, she's not a youth. But in the first place, you had the chance whereby this particular candidate came with all the qualifications you wanted. You went on and nominated such a candidate. So you still have to wait for people to come and complain. So that means that at some point, even the electoral commission at some point is not fair. So whatever is going on, people will be right to judge and say, whatever is going on, there's something behind it.
Yeah.
You understand? So I think that's all I have for that particular question.
Can I step in the...
Yes, sure, you can step in.
Who knows you more than you know yourself?
Definitely you as yourself.
Who knows you more than you know yourself?
I think it's
So
not
before we cross to judge the party and the history for the verification, let us ask, why are we youth trying to be mafias?
true.
Right now, I know my age. Maybe my mother could be the second person, but because of their old age, we usually forgive our parents. Because sometimes you find your mother or your father asking, Pussy, which year were you born?
Yeah.
You get?
Yes.
So meaning at this stage, you know yourself more than anyone else can know you. So before we wait for the ISIS verification,
Yes.
let us come back to ourselves. Where is your conscience? As a youth, who is trying to bring sanity to our country?
True.
Where is your part?
True.
All right.
Why are you trying to tempt people? Why are you trying to tarnish people's name? When we are doing verification at the EC, plot 13, there is always a big line.
True.
That verification is always there. We start with your name, then you bring in all your documents one by one. But it is allegedly said this colleague of mine had a number of IDs. You get? So what he submitted for verification is not actually her actual ID until when the truth came out. Even after Nira writing, she was still insisting and saying, look, me, I know, I'm young.
In fact,
You get?
just a
So
second.
on this, I really don't think it's the fault of the AC. You get? We tend to try to be smart always.
Yes.
Just a second. On
Yeah.
that very issue, of course, for that particular colleague we are talking about, after of course, due to public pressure from the internal, of course, the youth, the electoral commission of the NRM decided to disqualify, to denominate the candidate. The candidate went ahead to even go to court.
To court.
You understand? Yes, it's very true. Even the person who nominated you was like, you know what? I've realized you're not eligible. After the electoral commission denominating you, the particular candidate went ahead and even petitioned court. Still, court had to come and verify, approach, because she sued court and she sued the
NRM and
NRA at the same time. So of course, court had to look at all the evidence she had used in court, and came up and it was like, you know what? It's very true. You're past the age of being nominated for national youth elections.
All right. Which now makes me ask you a question, Susan.
Yes.
The young people right now, just like we saw from the elders, it's a do or die in politics.
True.
And whichever position someone is taking, it's a do or die. And we're seeing the same fate that the elders are experiencing, rubbing off to the kind of aspirants who are running for these positions. It has become a do or die. Why is it that when young people are also learning these bad habits from the elders within the national resistance movement? Is there something different that you guys, the young generation in the party, would like to do, or you copying the same old habits that the older generation has showed you, the younger aspirants? This is a tough question.
Drake, don't expect a young one of a goat to behave like a sheep. You get? The young people, or my generation, 80% is behaving exactly how they've seen the old people behave.
True.
You get? It's that small percentage. Why you find the melodies saying, we feel like changing the country. You get?
Yeah.
Because the young people are taking directly the footsteps of the old people. While we're seeing the old people fighting what she was talking about, the people would say they're mature, they know how to harmonize and reconcile, but they're fighting, holding chairs, hitting on each other's heads. And the young people are watching. You get? Where the young people are saying, let's have a peaceful and harmonious election, you're calling us at 4 a.m. to vote. What do you mean? Is it time for witchcraft or it's time for voting? You get? In short, what I would say is this generation of ours is really, I'm trying to find a polite way to say it, is lacking good examples by actions, not by speech. Not me telling you, Drake, behave like this, but me acting the right way, and you can copy. Not me saying, there was that statement we used to say, don't do as I what? As I say or as I do?
Do as I
Do
say, but
as
not
I
as I-
say, but not as I do. What is that? What are you teaching people? You get? What are you exactly teaching people? Can we live by actions? We all know that our sight feeds in so much, more than the ears. Do we agree?
Yeah.
True.
We all agree. So it's the same thing that is disturbing our generation. What they see does not match with what we hear.
But Susan, how can we then be different? Because we have seen what the older generation has done, and we are preaching a message of a better Uganda, a Uganda of a generation that is more akin to information, more informed, and more involved in the democratic process. And yet we are copying the same old ideas and principles that are extremely wrong to the ideologies that we seem to preach.
Well, what we have to do is simply simple. Can we stand against the odds? Can we stand for what is right despite seeing people act in the opposite way?
Can I then ask you,
Yes, please.
Can you stand away from involving in commercialization of politics? Can you preach the message to other young people as well?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
been my message throughout my campaigns.
Yeah.
I've been telling young people, can you stand firm for what is right?
Is
With-
it then feasible that you will win that election?
I'm coming to that now. I had already given you an example of Professor Mumba. It's what I'm telling people. You as youth, can you stand and say this is manipulation? Can you stand and say this is taking shape for my future? Can you stand and say, this is leading me nowhere? Can you stand and say, I'm standing for the generation, for the nation, not for myself? Do you understand?
Yeah.
What does it help you as a youth delegate, well educated, to receive money, to vote someone who has not helped your community for the past 20 years, when you well know your cousins back at home are sitting in dust under the tree?
Yeah.
When you well know your aunties and your sisters are in that hospital without equipment. When you well know, even when you're trying to fight with agriculture and all that, there will be no clear roads and no clear market and no clear prices for your product. Can you stand and say, yes, we appreciate how far we have come, but where are we going if we don't get this here sorted out?
All right. Just as we go towards the break, something I would like us to ponder about. We have talked about the postponement of the NRM Youth Aspirants race. Something that also we are going to talk about in the second half about the NYC, a structure that has also been frustrated with similar postponement. And now this for the NYC is for the whole nation because
Yeah.
it's a special interest group. And delegates have to wait until the 1st to the 3rd of October for the race to happen. And still, a concept that I would like us to talk about, which is commercialized politics, that young people are spending money that they don't have in the race. Something I would like us to think about, but also talk about in the second half of the show. Otherwise, thanks very much for this very interesting half of the show. And to you, our dear viewers, for staying with us. See you in a bit. Thank you.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break, and to you, our dear esteemed viewers, for always staying with us and watching us religiously on the Youth Roundtable. Just before we went for the break, we were talking about the postponement of the NRM Youth Primaries. And right now, we're going to speak about something similar, but of a broader constituency, that is the elections of the special interest groups. The Electoral Commission on 21st of August released a press release. Of course, the letter was dubbed as the adjustment of the date for the regional conferences to elect regional non-unionized workers delegates, but also the regional older persons delegates and national youth committees of 2025. Allow me to read this letter verbatim before we get into the discussion. So the press release says that in preparation for the 2025-2026 general elections, the Electoral Commission released a roadmap wherein the holding of the regional conferences to elect the non-unionized workers delegates to the national level was rescheduled for Monday, 25th August 2025. This happened. Then in consultation with the stakeholders, this exercise has been rescheduled and now will take place on Monday, 1st September 2025 at respective areas of representation, that is Central, Eastern, Northern and Western region. This is for non-unionized workers. The election was supposed to have happened on 1st of September, which I presume it did. But now, of interest, according to this release, for us, the young people, this is the segment. Subsequently, the holding of the regional conference to elect regional delegates to the National Council for Older Persons will be held on 26 September 2025 instead of Wednesday, 27th August 2025, as earlier scheduled. The holding of regional conferences to elect the national youth committees is rescheduled to take place between 1st to 3rd October 2025 from the initial dates of 27th to 29th August 2025. This is therefore an appeal to stakeholders to take note of the changes and participate in the regional conferences to elect regional non-unionized delegates, among others that they talk about in this press release. Something that stands out in this press release for me is the consultation with the stakeholders.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Consultation
with the stakeholders.
Something that I don't think happened.
Or will happen.
Oh, might never happen.
They just released a press release saying they consulted the stakeholders and, decided to extend or postpone the dates.
I think the consultation happened, but who are the stakeholders in this particular thing?
Yeah.
You get?
Yes.
EC, sitting with NRM EC,
Those are the
looks like stakeholders are fully covered.
I think that the word stakeholders is misused. When people say stakeholders, they think it is the top.
Yeah.
I think people do not understand that stakeholders goes to as low
Even
as
the voter,
the
the
least
stakeholder.
person,
The
as long
persons
as they
involved
are
in the
involved
process.
in the process.
Cognizant of the fact that the NYC structures, but also generally the special interest group selections is a college vote, and there are various structures that are involved, right from the village, the parish, sub-county, district,
regional, national.
and all these are delegates that ought to be involved in the process.
Sure.
And the reality is, a press release was just about 21st August, and the elections were supposed to be scheduled just a few days to that. And that then makes me ask a question, the same question. Is EC actually ready to hold elections? But allow me start with you, my brother Ashraf.
Yes.
Looking at this, we have just talked about what is happening in the national resistance movement. Now we're looking at the electoral commission, the whole electoral commission that's supposed to man the elections come January 2026.
Yes.
Postponing elections of special interest groups, that is non-unionized workers, older persons, and the elections of the national youth committees, which has also caused significant negative impact on the delegates involved and the candidates who are aspiring for these positions. Let us have your views on the same.
Thank you so much, Mr. Drake. On the issue of postponement of elections of special interest groups, of course, in the first discussion, we're talking about the issue of postponing elections in the party of the NRM. But we all have to know that many of us here, when we talked about the issue of stakeholders, everyone was very, very surprised. People keep asking, who are those stakeholders? Because even here we have a candidate, right? Even if she's not yet on the national level, but the mere fact that she expressed her interest in the NRM primaries, that really shows that she's already a stakeholder.
Yeah.
You get? So if at all even now she's still surprised, who are the stakeholders, then just feel pity for the people, or because you've given examples of stakeholders involved from village level to national level. If someone at the national level is surprised, just take and ask yourself, how will the person at the village level look like in issues? Because even the issue of stakeholders on the document, I've also had a chance to look at the document. They've even made it bold. Stakeholders. So who are those stakeholders? Because stakeholders in anything, they are those people who are going to participate in one way or the other.
True.
However much they didn't participate to a greater extent, but the mere fact that they are involved in the process, that makes them the stakeholders. And on the issue of postponing, because we are seeing that postponing elections on the national level, particularly the electoral commission, there's all these people corresponding with the NRM at the same time. Because no. I'm not saying it's what's going on, but
it's true.
It's true, right?
Because NRM, the NYC elections for NRM was supposed to take place on 26th August. It was pushed now to 30th September.
September, yes. And then even these ones are pushed to?
EC was supposed to be 26th to 27th.
Yeah.
It was pushed to what?
To first.
to first to
To
third.
So should we say that
October.
the Electoral Commission is being influenced by one of the political parties?
And it is supposed to be independent.
It's supposed to be independent.
I didn't say that.
No, I think the viewers will have the best answer for us.
Yeah.
Because if at all, the issue of postponing, we would have complained. But then why is it going, the rate at which the postponements are happening?
For special interest groups
Yes,
elections.
for special interest groups, it's going in line with one of the political parties. Take an example, if this may be, for example, happening, for example, with the National Youth Platform or any other political party, whereby maybe they postpone their elections to beyond the date of the Electoral Commission. Do you think the Electoral Commission would have done such a thing? I'm very sure each one of us here will have to.
No, that goes back to the laws and the policies.
Yes. So I really feel that the issue of postponing shows that the Electoral Commission is not even ready. My sister talked about we should conduct elections in 2030. Because now, if at all we had a period of 5 good years, at first we used to complain of COVID, whatever. This election here, we don't have anything like COVID or any other external conflicts that is going to affect the internal democracy of the country. The Electoral Commission had more than enough time. The resources are actually, their budget was 838 billion for conducting the 2026 general election. And this is a budget whereby there are certain agencies of the government. Once we all know that these particular agencies, if at all it's going to be budget allocation, they come and give what they wish for the parliament, for example, to offer them. But there are certain agencies, for example, the Electoral Commission, once they propose a budget, I'm very sure the government or the parliament will not have to even go against their wishes. So if at all they came up with a proposal of 838 billion Ghana shillings and the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana had to approve such a budget, that means that that's the money that's the kind of resource. Those are the kind of resources that they wanted so as to conduct a free and fair general election. But if at all they were granted all those kinds of resources, but up to now you're having issues of postponing. We have consulted stakeholders. Which reasons have we given? Okay, it's true you've consulted the stakeholders.
But which stakeholders?
But which stakeholders are those? And we as the general public, we would wish to know what were the main reasons, because they didn't give reasons, that's why they postponed.
They just
consulted.
Yeah.
But then we also want to know, even if I'm not a stakeholder, I would wish to know because I'm a Ugandan, right? So I also expect that even if you consulted the stakeholders, give us the reasons that you agreed upon with the stakeholders. What did the stakeholders say? You don't have just said that we consulted and this was the position of the stakeholders as well as the Electoral Commission. So that alone shows that there's something going on that is actually not right. You get? And if at all we keep on persisting like this, that's why we shall keep on saying these things will keep on happening. It will be like a cycle. 5 years, we shall say even in 2021 they postpone. 2025 they postpone. So I think Mr. Justice Simon Yawakam and colleagues, they should do something.
Right.
There was one time we were here with Councillor Danita. She said, Ugandans are not yet angry enough. That is the only thing we are going through all this.
We are just like
Ugandans are not yet angry enough. The day they wake up when at least 60% of the Ugandans are angry enough, then
I think Ugandans are angry, but they just don't care, or they think their anger is most likely going to lead them into trouble, so they decide to suppress it before
that means
they
they're
are
not yet
suppressed.
angry enough. The moment you're real angry enough, you will not look at the effects of the anger.
You go ahead and demand for accountability.
Yeah.
There's a time you reach that extreme point of anger and you're like, let me let things be.
Go.
Yeah.
Because this causes a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
Remember, the more you postpone, for example, an election, you're causing trauma to the candidates,
To the
voters.
delegates.
And remember, this is an election whereby you can give an election just happens at A level in school.
Yeah.
For example, Form 5, someone is just contesting for head prefect position, and they invest a lot of resources, even if it's not necessarily that much. But the mere fact that
At
you're going to
their
have
level.
for votes,
Yeah.
just how about on a national level? So people get frustrated, even because these are people, and we have to know that this kind of election, we have some of the candidates who for example, the issues of youth, national youth, for example, youth MP, Northern one. Some of the candidates have a privilege of being daughters and maybe sons of ministers.
Yeah.
So you can give an example. For example, I'm a son of a minister, I'm contesting, and maybe my sister here is an ordinary Ugandan vying for the same position.
With passion for
Trust me,
service.
I'm very sure she will not be the same person as me. Because for me, yes, I will go and look for the votes, but the resources will be around. But someone is going to come, contest, the resources may be there, but they may not be on the level of the other party. But then if at all you go, they have decided to go on with such kind of level. But then you go ahead and even start postponing elections. The result causes a lot of frustration. People, as she has said, because you have said that people, Ugandans don't get that. It's true. Ugandans are frustrated. But at some point, some people feel like, yeah, I'm even sorry to use Uganda. Yeah, let's just.
All right.
Drake, I've told you about this one thing.
Yeah.
When we're talking about voting, the frustration and all that, what is the security for this babe's employment kind?
True.
You get? They've set the dates. This person in the private employment sector has reported to the boss. They've already set the dates for leave. And the organization or the company has already put in place who is going to relieve you. Before you notice it, there is change of dates. Then you have to report again. Don't we see this as a way of denying Ugandans their rights to choose a leader? Because we all know what happens in the private sector kind of employment. You're not safe. You're loyal to your job for you to be safe. Now here you are, requesting for a leave. Before you know it, you've cancelled. Then you're pushing the dates. Before you know it, you're actually afraid to go and ask for leave. Because
You
you're
most
not
likely
sure.
not ask for it because you have asked for leave
And here, all you're saying is that, let me leave. If there is facilitation, I'll probably speak to my admin and see if it can come through. But your right for voting is being what? Deterred.
Curtailed.
Exactly.
True. Melody, understanding from the submissions of Ashraf, he has brought out a candid idea of what a particular impact this postponement means, but also the role EC has to play. A concept that I now want to relate to this is political financing. We are now familiar in the game in Uganda that if you're involved in politics, you don't just need, you must spend. When you're moving, you need to spend money. Your voters expect money. And in your mind, you have a particular budget allocated that you're going to spend this particular amount. Up to this date, when you're done, you will know that I've spent this amount, and the day comes and that's it. But from nowhere, they push the days by a month, at least for the NYC structures, and the other structures under the special interest groups are aware of when they're supposed to have their elections. But unfortunately for the NRM primaries, the young people, they're just there existing and hoping that they'll communicate soon. Now, such a scenario creates uncertainty, it creates trauma, it creates depression, and it's unfortunate. But what I'm interested in is the resources that are going to be involved again, because you have to repeat the cycle. You need to call your delegates, you need to visit them, and you need to maintain relevance. Something that you've already done, but you need to continuously do it. And for the NYC, you're certain of the date. For the NRM primaries, you're uncertain. The impact this has on political financing, the strain it has on young people. Let's pick your view on that.
All right. I think we have discussed before about the idea on financing of politics and how much money people spend on politics. If you look at the budget that people have for elections, it is a very big budget that cannot even be allocated to the health sector or to any other sector in the country. And I think that is very, very unfortunate that we have people that are going to die because they cannot get services. But also, without looking at maybe how much money is allocated, on a personal level, maybe Susan has planned that I'll spend 20 million in my election and campaigns. But then they tell her you still have another 1 month to make sure that you maintain relevance, like you said. You have to meet your delegates. You have to keep looking nice. You have to maintain all the standards for you to be in that particular election. The implication is simple. Susan has just left university. I am sure she did not leave 10 years ago. She could have left like 2 or 3 years ago. It means she's still struggling with the unemployment that this country talks about every day. And she's not that financially stable that she can have all the funds that she needs to make sure that she keeps herself relevant. if she had planned 20 million, maybe she's left with maybe 2 million to use on the final day. What then that means is that one thing is that maybe she's most likely going to go for a loan if she wants to maintain the relevance in that election. But two, she might lose the relevance in that election or may not even win that election because she does not have the finances anymore. On the other idea on maybe commercialization of politics, okay, as someone that is aspiring, you do not need to have that much money, but also you need to have some money on yourself because you need to dress nice, you need to move from place to place to make sure you meet the people that are going to vote you, but also to engage with the people. I think then how much money that someone plans to put in an election is also something that we should discuss. There's a certain candidate somewhere that maybe has planned 100 million, 200 million in their election. And I think this is the problem because now we're going to ask, what is that 100 million going to be used for? Maybe by delegates. And I think that is the biggest problem that we have in the elections trade. You will find that most people are going to have all that much money to go and buy delegates, the manipulation that maybe the manipulation that they are talking about.
Yeah.
It means that if you had already manipulated your people with 50 million, it is going to be very hard for you again to raise the 50 million to go and do manipulation again.
Does then that therefore make the election lose its credibility?
Exactly. The election then becomes, I don't want to call it rubbish. The election then becomes so bad.
But I already said.
Okay, I intended to say it anyways. The election then becomes bad to that extent that people actually need money to make sure they get a position. If you're Drake and you are a son of a peasant somewhere and you do not have the money, you're not going to get any position. It means that, and I think this is not generally for older people. Young people are doing this more and more compared even to older people because they know the people that they are dealing with. For example, if you go to National Youth, the Youth Committee, young people are the ones voting. This is not entirely to blame on them. The frustration comes with how the structure is, how the country is, that they do not have jobs. And at a time when someone comes and gives you 20 or 50,000, you just take it up and vote for them because you do not see any other alternative. You do not think you can raise the 50,000 on your own. That's not a good thing, Drake. But young people do not have an alternative then. No. They do not know what to do for the unemployment that they are going through. They do not know what they fear to take up the risks because they have seen maybe a person that has been voted and has done nothing to change the situation. So they'd be like, okay, if I vote Susan, is it going to be any different? And they're like, no, maybe we have done this for the last 10 years. And I think we do not care anymore. Let me just vote for someone that has given me 50,000 and then just go ahead because maybe that is what matters to them at that particular time. Yeah.
I've already asked you, Melody, how do you promise this young girl, this fresh graduate, a better future when their today is not guaranteed?
Exactly.
You get, someone is hungry, a fresh graduate, they do not consider going back home as a solution. Since we usually say 99 opportunities are in Kampala, in the cities. You get? Someone, their rent happens by miracle. A good meal happens by miracle. Here they meet a candidate. They have met two candidates. Susan is promising them a brighter future, whereby saying innovation, creativity, ICT, and all that. Here they meet Melody, who's telling them, after our conversation, I have 300,000 for you.
I'll pay for your rent for the next 3 months.
And we shall keep in touch. I want you to be my coordinator and I'll be paying you this amount monthly or weekly. You get? But this promise is here for up to the end of August or September when the election is done. So how does Susan, which energy will Susan have to use to promise this person a brighter future when today is not guaranteed?
The brighter future has been promised to us for the last maybe 30, 35 years, but we have not seen it. So what is the guarantee then that it is going to happen through you, Susan? We keep asking ourselves the same question.
You've been lied
so it means if Drake comes and gives me 20,000, I'll most likely vote them because the bright future is now.
All right. Now, I think something that then we need to look at is the role that EC has to play. Something that already they should have been playing.
Do they care?
In terms of civic awareness and civic
education.
education.
I actually wanted to talk about that, Drake, on the idea of civic education. I think EC allocates money to do civic education, is allocated money for civic education, right?
Yeah.
But you notice that even people at the local level, when they're going to vote for an LC person, they do not know who they are supposed to vote because they don't even know what they do not know why they are voting a particular person. The civic education cannot happen also when you do not care about the standards of living that people are at. If you tell people that we think we should vote for someone that is maybe going to bring creativity, innovation, advocacy, and things like that, but this particular person does not see the guarantee that those particular things will happen, or even when they are going to happen, they have an immediate problem, like their child has not gone to school, maybe they do not have supper for the next day. If you do not change the situation and just say that you're going to educate people, then you are not doing anything. That is why you see, even when we have people that are young, people that have gone to school, understand how democracy works, understand how elections work, they still do not go on to say that we think we will vote the right person or the person that has given us the best ideology, but rather vote for someone that has given them 20,000. The civic education cannot stand alone. People need to be brought out of that bad situation that the country is going through for them to be able to choose who the right candidate is. Because if I am financially stable, because the biggest problem of this country is really money.
Yeah.
So if I am financially stable, even if Susan brings for me 1 million to vote, I'll most likely not, because I know I will get it. But if Susan brings 1 million and I am unemployed, I am most likely going to take it. So it means the civic education, even if it is there, it may not be of use when people are not empowered or taken out of that situation that they are going through right now.
But I think let me engage you, Ashraf, as we edge towards the end. You see, when it comes to the EC has a role in civic education and civic awareness.
Sure.
Of course, they get support from civil society organizations, but we need to get accreditation from them. Of course, they have also curtailed that aspect as well.
Yeah.
But Melody's concern is on you cannot have civic awareness when people are not empowered. The prerequisite of empowerment lies with the leaders that we put in these offices.
Yes.
That means the members of parliament that we send, who are supposed to go ahead and do legislation, representation, oversight, and appropriation, are supposed to conduct specifically those roles to ensure that the opportunities reach the lowest of persons in the society.
Sure.
The leaders we vote in LC, in the local councillors, among others, are supposed to do that. Yeah, and that idea that rides on that phenomenon that I've just shown you comes down to people knowing exactly who to vote. But in a society whereby you have people are grappling with a huge rates of unemployment, that means they do not have money in their pockets to have decent living, to have to even afford housing, to go ahead and have health facilities, among others. It kills the idea of an effective democracy, and that is something that we want. Now, as young people who are involved just in our structures of NYC, we are looking at what amount of money will a particular candidate give me to help me parent, to help me sustain a living for the next month, because our ideology is on survival of today, not for the future, but for today.
True.
Now, this postponement also has an effect, because in the process, the candidates have to spend more.
True.
So, analyzing the situation, a young person at the end of the day, after this postponement, will possibly not vote someone based on ideas, but how much has that person spent in that process to convince them? How many times have they called them? How much airtime have they sent them? How much money have they received? Not on the ideology that a particular candidate is preaching.
True.
Something we're already experiencing in the process of this postponement. I want you to focus on the quality of leaders that we're going to have in the NYC, but also broadly as a nation, with all these postponements that are going on.
Thank you so much, Drake. On the issue of civic education, by the way, it's one of the most challenges you have in the democracy of Uganda here.
Yeah.
Reason being that most of the voters, some of them don't even know the functions of, for example, members of parliament. Someone votes for a member of parliament and they expect a member of parliament, for example, the one who has attended most burials in the constituency,
Paid school fees
for their kids, and I'm very sure around 60% and above of the voters in various constituencies don't even know the functions of their members of parliament. And who do we blame at the end of the day? I don't even want to blame the voters. Of course, I would have to blame the leaders, because it's the leaders who have actually misled even the voters. An example is, you've given an example, for example, postponing of the elections,
Yeah.
various elections. If you postpone various elections, actually the voters, they see it as an advantage. Why? Because they know, for example, if the election was supposed to happen on Friday this week, I've gone to vote. Of course, I've been getting, for example, various resources from various candidates.
Yeah.
And on the particular day I'm supposed to appear for the election, then I hear it has been postponed. Do you know it is an advantage to me, the voter, in that kind of aspect of not looking at which voter I'm going to vote the best, but as long as I'm going to benefit from them financially, because they'll have that belief that, yes, oh wow, they have increased my days of eating. Let me call it like that.
Yeah.
Because they'll expect that once the elections have been extended, they will have the chance to approach their voters, their candidates, to get more resources from them. So the issue of civic education is a very, very big problem we have in the democracy of Uganda, whereby the electoral commission will just come and say, we just display the voters register. Up to now, actually, some people don't even know what a voters register means. But they saw it, they went and even participated in the process, but they don't even know the advantage of a voters register. Reason being that there is an issue of civics. How can I say that issue of civic education? The government has done very more than less actually to inform the general public.
But that's the prerequisite of the electoral commission.
Yeah,
Who
actually,
already
of
has
course,
a budget.
Let me even. It's more of the electoral commission. But all we need to know that all these resources have been available to the electoral commission. The issue nowadays, that the only thing that I see, at least they have tried to come up with an advert. For example, an advert on TVs, but that's not enough. We need to go that the electoral commission needs to go as far as reaching out to people one-on-one, if possible, because there are some people there who don't have the chance of watching the TV.
Yeah.
Yes, the TV can be watched by people in urban areas. How about someone who's deep down there in my village in Kayunga, who doesn't even have a TV but has a radio? You have to reach out to them and guide them on the functions of their leaders and
why that vote
how,
matters.
yes, and how they should hold their leaders accountable. This is why at the end of the day, the government, for example, if the president has a bill he wants to be passed, he will buy off the
MPs.
The MPs, because he knows at the end of the day, some of the voters will not even know that my MP was given 100 million, for example, to pass a particular bill.
Okay, interesting. Susan,
Yes, great.
as we end this show, or as we come towards the end, I would like you to codify a message. One, to the young people, but then two, to the voters, because we are involved in a process that, of course, as you've said, marred with a lot of irregularities, but also huge interest from young people when it comes to money. Send a message to them, but also give us your concluding remarks and signing out.
To the young people out there, you and I are responsible for the Uganda we want to see, for the Uganda we desire to see in the next 20 years. Don't use what you've gone through to revert to the nation. Use whatever you've gone through to shape you, to direct your thoughts and your actions for a better Uganda. If you've gone through a hard time with the delegates and you happen to become the leader, don't fight hard to revenge. Take up that leadership position for the better of the country. And to my fellow candidates, let us not lose the energy to shape the country, whether you've gotten the position or not. This goes to Youth League, Youth MP aspirants, and the NYC aspirants. Don't lose the energy, don't lose the morale to shape the country. With or without a position, you can still impact the future. We can still design the future we want to see. Let us work tirelessly. Let us stand up against the odds. Let us know there is no tomorrow without us. Look at Uganda in 20 years. It is the comrades you're seated with that will now be the top Ugandans. So it is the foundation that we lay today that we shall build on then the strong walls for our nation tomorrow. And to the NYC aspirants and delegates, be considerate. There is no way you should expect a good leader from someone you've pushed to the wall financially. Be considerate. Let us share the responsibility, if at all we desire to build a better and accommodative Uganda. I thank you all. Katsime Susan Barumo.
Thank you. Very happy to have you, and looking forward to hosting you again.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, Ashraf, your concluding remarks.
Thank you so much. I would like to upload all the stakeholders, especially the Electoral Commission, to at least try their level best, because the resources are fully available to them as they do request. So we shouldn't have issues of postponing elections, having people coming up to complain that there were irregularities. They should actually be in charge of the election. This is whereby this means that if at all it's the Electoral Commission in charge of the election, let us not have interference from various agencies. Let it be more than independent, because it is granted that authority under, I think it is Article 60 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. So there is nothing it loses if at all it is fully in charge of the election, because at the end of the day, we shall have to move on. I'm very sure next year by now, everything will be done as far as even swearing in is concerned. So I just I call upon all the stakeholders, especially the Electoral Commission, the voters, the various political parties, to try their level best to make sure that the 2026 general election and even the elections we are starting, because we are already in the electoral process, to ensure that everything moves on smoothly, because at the end of the day, we need to have a better country that is loved by its citizens, a better country that provides its citizens with all the resources they require, because at the end of the day, it's the taxpayer who suffers. Whatever is happening right now, it's the taxpayer who suffers at the end of the day, because it's their money that they pay, that they should gain from at the end of the day. So that's all I would have said right now, and I also thank you for having hosted me, and I pray that next time we get back here, I'm even with my fellow panelists here.
Thank you. Very, very, very glad that you showed up, but also gave us those insightful discussions during the course of the show. Melody.
Okay, it's always a pleasure being here and deliberating on issues that affect us. My parting remarks are just simple, especially particularly to the young people. We form the biggest percentage of the population in the country, and it is only our votes that will actually change this country. We do not want to go to the bush. Going to the bush does not necessarily mean changing president, but also having the right leaders that we want to have for our generation. It is upon us to take up these positions, but also to go and vote and make sure that we have the right leaders that will take us to the next step. This country does not just need one person. It needs all of us to bring in an effort to come and change the policies that do not favor us and put things the right way that they should be. Sorry, it's a pleasure being here, Drake, and thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. Thank you, Melody. Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you, Susan, for taking time and joining us in this discussion. It has been candid, it has been insightful, it has been informative. And I'd like to wish you well in your race. We don't know when you'll have your primaries, but when it does happen, all the best. But otherwise, it has been wonderful. And to your dear esteemed viewers for religiously following Civic Space TV, the Youth Roundtable, and other programs, asante sana. But also to the production crew, Brittany and Paul, for ensuring that the show is aired and put to you on time. Thank you very much for doing that as well. But also to the Center for Constitutional Governance for giving a platform to young people to deliberate on issues that affect the young people, that affect the leaders of now. And of course, last but not least, to you again, our dear viewers. Thank you very much for always following. My name is Douglas Trekonen. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.